Ready? Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Divine Diva, where my diva for today is Asherah Miriam Rose. Beautiful name. And
Thank you.
welcome to the show. And I would love for you to introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, well, thank you for so much, Suzanne, for having me and for everyone who's tuning in with us today. And my name is Asherah Miriam Rose, and I'm a modern oracle and feminine embodiment mentor. And I've been doing this work for about 10 years. It's really the reclamation of the power that we hold as women, not only through our bodies and through our wombs, but truly through our ancient history and lineage. And I also have an organic clothing brand that's an extension of my work.
Mhm. Wonderful. And well, my first question is always, what, in your view, are the qualities that a Divine Diva has?
The qualities of the Divine Diva. Okay, I'm just gonna start with what wants to come through, and that may be a little different or unexpected, but actually, what I'm feeling at the moment, at least, the first thing that wants to come through, it's boundaries,
Mhm.
because I find boundaries very important, especially in this work that we do, especially in the way that we move as women through the world. Being able to be clear in our boundaries, meaning what do we want and what do we don't want, being able to articulate that clearly from a space of love and from a
Mhm.
space of power,
Mhm.
and being able to stand in our truth with
Mhm.
love and with power. So,
Mm. Yeah,
mm,
like boundaries are so essential when it comes to healing and being your authentic self. And why can it still be so difficult for women to express those boundaries? Because it usually comes with some type of shame or guilt.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like the diva is that frequency, right? She's like the diva, and I in my work I speak a lot about the dom also. It's just that frequency she exudes, this presence, this confidence, and that also comes with boundaries and with claiming our wants and our needs.
Hmm. And what has your own journey, your own spiritual journey to this divine moment that you are today? What has that journey been like?
Well, can you ask a little more refined? Because they
It's a
has so
long
many
journey.
components, and yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's yeah,
Mhm. And maybe
I
what
guess
are some of the main lessons that that period has taught you?
yeah. What I can say is like I've been on this path for about maybe 13 years now, like consciously on the spiritual path. I feel I've always been on this path because when I was very young, life as it was didn't really make sense to me. I was always very intuitive and connected. And the lessons that I've learned along this way has been, I mean, so many different ones. I guess initially when I deepened into my spirituality and I worked a lot with plant medicines and there was a point where I was really drawn into like a more white light approach of spirituality, and it was all about being unconditional love and being the good girl and being always compassionate and all these things. And eventually I realized that all of that was like actually cutting a really strong part away from me. And this is why maybe the word boundaries wanted to come through, and was this, but my true expressing my true desires, which maybe are not always unconditional love. Maybe it's a more fierce love,
Mhm.
or being in my unique human expression that maybe looks very different than what it would fit into some spiritual boxes and circles. And that has led me into deepening the work of embodiment. And when I speak about embodiment, what I really mean is to embody the totality of who we are, of who we came here to be,
Mhm.
and to embody our unique signature that is so
Mhm.
alive and magical and different and all the things,
Mhm.
without having to be like someone else or what someone else says.
Mhm.
So I guess authenticity actually has been a big theme
Mhm.
on this path, for me, of finding myself, my voice, and my truth.
And that can
Yeah.
still be hard for women today because when you don't fit into a certain mold or you're not this cookie cutter person that society expects from you, you are usually like outcast or seen as weird, different, or unique, but not in a good way. How can we embrace that authenticity to become ourselves more?
That's a great question. I feel like the first step is to know ourselves, to
Mhm.
know who we are. And like from, not from the great, I mean, of course, also there's the greater, the know thyself, but to know ourselves intimately on what is it that feels true to us, what is it that we love. And we all have that unique voice and that intuition within ourselves, and that voice of truth, as I like to call it, and that is our compass. And in order to get there, we must clear all the other voices and stories. And the way how I usually do it in my work, it's really, again, the embodiment, the somatic work. We do a lot of emotional healing, a lot of allowing the, often as women, often we have a lot of unexpressed rage and anger, allowing that to just come through our voice
Mhm.
and screaming or shaking it out and really awakening that primal Shakti that lives within us, or allowing the tears to flow, or allowing the grief to move us that we also hold through all these experiences that we had in our lives, often hardships, that then we are not allowed to speak about, or they're in the past, so now it's over. So moving all of that will eventually bring us closer to our own voice and to our own acknowledging and honoring ourself and realizing our worth. And through that form of self-love and self-reclamation, we eventually don't want to be anything else anymore than our true self, because we have owned ourselves and we stop abandoning who we are and what we want to bring forth in the world with that,
Mhm.
even if it's so scary sometimes.
Right. And it can be. But yeah, that's where your authenticity can really shine when you go through that and heal from that. And I would love to know that as an embodiment mentor yourself, how can we access the wonderful healing properties that our bodies naturally have?
That's a great and also multi-layered question. I feel like it is first to start to listen to our body. And how can we do that? Perhaps just to sit down for 10 minutes and ask, hold. And for women, I always like to go to the womb, especially, but even for men, we all have a womb. It's even if it's energetic, to bring our hands to our womb, to our heart, and just ask, hey, how are you feeling? Or even like, hi, it's me. Sorry, I haven't spoken to you since maybe ever. Um, is there anything that you would like to share with me? Authentically asking that, and in a contained space, in a quiet space, knowing that you are uninterrupted. And very often, there may be some answers, there may be some just sensations, there may be emotions, and then allowing them to flow, feeling safe to let them move. And then that will make the space for more information to be accessed then through the body and through our womb.
And how important are like self-compassion and self-forgiveness in this process?
Oh, I mean, it's so important in this process and in every process, truly, because, at the end of the days, we are human learnings.
Yeah.
human learnings. We're
Yeah.
human beings, human learnings, you know,
Yeah.
and we all have that little voice. I mean, I have that little voice that can be like, oh no, why did you do that? Or you should do that, and the perfection or the stories, yeah. So realizing, oh, hi, there you are again, and noticing the little story and creating space between that. And through that space, we can bring in some more compassion and
Mhm.
understanding naturally. Being like, okay, this is here, hello. And taking, also not taking it so serious, ourself, our stories, our, you know, all the stuff that we have day to day, like making it like as if it's the highest truth and
Mhm.
taking it so serious, softening our
Mhm.
own relationship with ourself.
Right.
So
Mhm.
yeah, this is the daily work of
Mhm.
embodiment. And it becomes easier and softer. And then maybe we forget and suddenly, oh, the voice is suddenly being there for a little bit longer than I realized, you know? So it's this in and out like a dance.
Mhm. And why is it so essential to face your shadows for you to shine brightly?
Well, I mean, I guess it is the same of everything that we've just spoke about.
Mhm.
Our shadow are our unexpressed emotions,
Mhm.
unexpressed fears, unexpressed stories, thought forms.
Mhm.
And so when we let them live in our body and in our awareness, they are unconsciously creating our existence externally and internally. You know, we are with ourselves all the time. I mean, there's no one else that you're closer with
Right.
than with your own self. And so when these shadows keep living in this in a way that you haven't faced them, right? That's the word you used. We're not facing them, and therefore they stay in this hidden space. We are somewhere disconnected to these parts of ourselves. And in order to fully radiate and shine, we need to bring all parts of ourselves home. It doesn't mean that we need to be perfect. It doesn't mean that everything needs to be healed. Not at all. But it just means to face, to acknowledge, to know, and to accept and to love those parts eventually, you know, or at
Yes.
least to, yeah, to be okay with them.
Yeah. I always say like the true healing process starts when you become aware of what is lying underneath all your doings, beings, beliefs, and just the awareness alone can set that all in motion, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, totally.
And I would love to know who or what are some of your most like divine teachers.
Yes. Well, some of my most divine teachers have been Saren and Asra Bertrand, the
Mhm.
authors of the book Womb Awakening. I don't know if you know that book.
Very good, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, well, I've worked with them very actively over the last 3 years in the sense of that I'm doing their deeper mentorships and the deeper courses and their 1 year certifications. But I have worked with the Womb Awakening book since probably 6 years, and I've
Mhm.
read the whole thing from the beginning till the end and went very deeply with the transmissions. And I'm also very connected to Saren and Asra. Like they're like my friends too. And we've connected even before I was in deep mentorship with them. But yeah, their work has really been an acceleration in my life and the remembrance of myself, of my lineage, of where I've come from, and really, really grateful for what they have given to me and to so many of us.
Mhm. And now I would like to quote you because online you have mentioned trust the unraveling even when it doesn't make sense. So could you explain that what that means for you?
Oh, I'm curious, did you find this somewhere on my social media or?
Yeah, I do my research.
Okay, good, good. Oh, being quoted. Okay, trust the unraveling, even if it doesn't make sense. Yeah, because it's not gonna make sense most of the time to our logical mind, right? And bringing here a little bit of wisdom from Asra Bertrand is we have the cerebral cortex, that's our frontal lobe, and that's our thinking and logical mind. That's the one that goes into taking actions, our thoughts, that's the one that we mostly identified with. And then we have the cerebellar cortex, which is our oracular mother mind. And here is that part of the brain that is, you can research it, but what I'm sharing is not everything scientifically proven yet, but a lot of it has been already, is works on a very fast and high intelligence. And so that part of our brain knows way earlier before we know. And it actually, that's the part that, like, you walk into a room and that part would already know where everything is, where are what colors are in the room, what kind of people, what it sees everything. And so that part knows. And so what I'm trying to say with this is that we have an innate intelligence within us that knows and that continuously guides us. And I like to say it's within, because some people say it's like outside, the God or the angels. It's also all here, but truly it's within. It's all communicating with one another. And so the cerebral cortex is very limited. It doesn't have a very big understanding. It only knows what it knows, and it only knows what's logical, and it only knows based upon past experience. And so a lot of things, especially when you enter this realm that is so different that what most people tell us, are not going to make sense. And especially at the beginning. And therefore we just gotta trust the unraveling. And the more we can trust, and the more we can actually drop into that cerebellar consciousness instead of living in the spinning cerebrum, the more it is gonna make sense, but from a different space, not from the mind, from the body, from the heart, from the knowing, and like everything becomes a sign. It's like, oh, okay, this, I see the black bird, this, and you just know it's in alignment with this other thing that just happened. And nature is constantly communicating to us. Everything is constantly communicating to us.
So
So
is that quote related to like trusting the unseen?
yeah, I guess it could be trust in the unseen also. It could be trust in the unseen, but I mean, on a deeper level, it's like it's more than that, really, because it's still seen, like
Right.
we often see, but it's just more about trusting. If you wanted to boil it down, like trusting before you have the proof, or before
Right.
you know, or before you have all the cards laid out and everything calculated. Like the mind wants that.
Yeah, exactly. The mind
That's
loves
the
like the
feminine
facts and the
wisdom.
proof and the statistics and yeah.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
feminine, and that's where life becomes magical.
Right. I agree. And how do you step into your divine diva energy?
Oh, there are so many different ways, because she expresses herself in many different ways. I would say it's my morning practice. First of all, I have my practice, I do movement, I do meditation. Sometimes I work with the yoni egg, which is little egg that you put into your yoni, into your vagina, and you do certain exercises with it to move the energy, to ground into the body. Sometimes I have different practices. So my morning practice is very, very important for me, especially as a highly sensitive human. I have also a little evening practice that I find important. And then it depends on the situation. Maybe when I'm feeling triggered, maybe when I'm feeling really upset, to just recall back my divine self and recall it back and remember that this is a little moment within the bigness of moments, without suppressing my emotions, without suppressing the reality of what's happening if I feel upset or angry, but also bringing back that center. And emotions, as I just stated, releasing emotions. If there's a lot, I just sit down and I do some journaling. I just shouting if I need to. I do whatever I need to release emotions. And then the last thing I want to also say is beauty, making myself, putting beautiful clothing on, putting jewelry on, putting makeup on, putting whatever, whatever makes me feel beautiful or nourished or taking care of myself. And that's why I also have a clothing brand, because I love to inspire women in that way. So yeah, and at least that external beauty, because obviously there's the true beauty is the radiance from within, but that is also an extension of that. So that also brings me into my divine diva.
Yeah. And do you have a sacred self-care or self-love ritual that you just never skip and that always makes you feel good?
Oh, I have so many different ones, so I couldn't say that I have one particular one, but I feel like nature, the simplest one, and that is actually the most powerful for me, is always nature. Going for a walk in nature, it's actually just that simple for me, really, because I always feel that nature clears all my energy. Whatever access, whatever, busy day, a lot of people going into nature, and also water, swimming in the fresh rivers. Yeah, that is something that feels really essential to me. And then just like in my own space, self massage, breast massage, face massage, all of that feels really nourishing and brings me back into my body and out of the busy mind as it sometimes can be. So
And how can women live from a more embodied place of love?
wow, well, that's a really big question. I feel like everything we really discussed today, first of all, meeting these parts of ourselves that are unexpressed, allowing those parts to be expressed, allowing those parts to be heard, moving into our body, connecting with our womb, connecting with our true desires, creating clear and healthy boundaries to say no and also to say yes to the invitations that feel true and aligned. And yeah, the more we release the old stories and become one with everything that we've experienced, the more we come into that embodied place of love and devotion. And one more thing that I also want to add actually is devotion, finding something that we are devoted to, that you are devoted to. May it be a figure, may it be an archetype, may it be God, may it be Earth, Mother Earth, anything that sparks, that is beyond you, that sparks this devotion, to create that communication with that, and even if that communication is in silence. Like for me, it's the Great Mother, and sometimes she expresses in different forms, or the earth and the sun. And just to move into gratitude and in communication with those parts, with those higher intelligence and energy, is going to bring us back to who we are in our essence, which is an embodiment and which is love.
I agree. And do you also pray or ask the divine for assistance, or what is your ritual in that sense?
Yes, I do. I always ask for help and guidance, and so I have a very intimate relationship, I would say, with the Great Mother, with the divine presence, however it wants to come through and express. And And sometimes she's like, yeah, babe, you created that. You got your ass smacked and now you're learning from it. And I'm like, okay, I get it, because she wants us to be empowered. And that's the diva. She is not like, oh, please, can you help me? It's like the more we move onto this path at the beginning, it's often more like we get a little more grace, like
Right.
beginner's luck, and then eventually she's like, okay, now girl, get your shit together, but in a good way.
Right.
So yeah, but we're always talking. It's like, okay, yeah, I hear you, so it's a beautiful relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, I have the same. Sometimes I know I'm getting a very clear sign from like my spirit team, my angels, and I'm like, okay, thank you. I needed that one. Or sometimes
Right.
something happens out of the blue. I'm like, okay, that was a clear sign as well. Thanks. I didn't know I needed it, but I did.
Yeah, yeah, tough love.
Yeah, exactly. But love with like a
Yes,
capital Love.
yes, yes.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. And I would love to know because this is a bit a different topic because usually that when it comes to women, like the topic of like pleasure and desire still have a lot of shame and stigma around it. Like we're not really allowed to express what we actually really want and what we need when it comes to also like intimacy and love. How do we get beyond that stigma?
Yeah, that's a very powerful and important conversation, I feel, for the time we are in and for the women. And I mean, again, I always like to bring it back to go beyond it. It's not even beyond, it's going into it. So again, feeling the emotions, moving into the shame, moving into the energy that is there, that is holding us back. But what I want to actually say, like as a message, is to realize, and this is what's been taken away from us, and this is where it's become twisted, is that our pleasure and our orgasmicness is divine energy. It's the divine moving through us. It's Shakti moving through us. It's like God wants us to have an orgasm, because like honestly, how do you feel when you had an orgasm, or at least when you, like, I know so many women don't even experience that, but at least, I don't know, when you've just, I'm sure at some point in your life you had an orgasm, you had a good sex or something like that, to just boil it down to that, even though it's much more than that. And you would feel really relaxed after, and really good and expansive and sexy and all of that. And that's are the things that we've been forbidden, by like the patriarchal organization, by the church, by all these different structures, and even by spirituality also. So it's like remembering and reclaiming that, and remembering this is divine energy, this is divine power, and we need it as women. The more we can let this energy move through us, the more we're gonna stand in our radiance and in our beauty and our power and who we are, and the more we can make this change that we are also wishing and praying for. It's not gonna happen from sitting in front of our altar with prayer beads and doing rituals with rose petals, even though I love doing that also, But we
Right.
need to activate that and bring it out into the world in however way it feels true to us.
Mhm.
And I think just that knowing and switching our relationship to that may already shift something,
Mm.
in the awareness.
Yeah. Well, my last
Yeah.
question is always the same, and that is when do you feel most divine?
Well, I mean, as we were just talking about the pleasure and the orgasmic energy, I feel when I'm in my pleasure, when I'm in my orgasmic energy, I feel the most divine,
Mhm.
because it's just such a beautiful, sacred and powerful energy, and it really brings me into my body rather
Mhm.
than being in the mind. And then, expanding on that, it's like when I'm in my body, and that when I'm not too much in my mind thinking I'm in my body, I'm in my body, I know everything is good, I know no matter what's happening, everything truly is good. I'm safe, I'm here, I'm held always, and that comes from being in the body.
Mm.
And yeah, and
Yeah.
that orgasmic pleasure, and also nature again
Mhm.
is my ally, and yeah, sacred space.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom with us, Asherah. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. So much love.
Thank you.